follow these people, guys. I'm impressed every week with the level of expertise, the level of intellects that we were able to get on this show. I love it. It's one of the best parts of the job. So I'm going to go over to Reggie first. So you think you think that we'll have this settled by midterm, because whatever positive architecture, infrastructure they're going to make for create a regulatory structure that is conducive to Web3 in the U.S. Presumably, people are saying it's going to happen by the midterms. So, how long do you think we're going to have this suffering? We are in such an odd situation right now. I don't know if there's historical precedent for, well, I mean, not that I can think of, for a U.S. president telling us we're going into a recession by design. Like that's a lot to deal with. These tariffs on and off are a lot to deal with. What is it going to take to soothe people and get things working again, man?
Okay, so I've been listening to the various people talk, and I'm going to be the guy that uh, pees in a punch bowl. Uh, the digital assets, the tokens that most people follow, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, are units of account on top of technology. And it's the technology where the value lies. Bitcoin, for instance, as a store of value, it is absolutely impossible to empirically say Bitcoin's a store of value when the first Bitcoin transaction happened in 2009. Even if it was a store of value, you wouldn't know it because you don't have the history behind it. Now, I'm not anti-Bitcoin guy. I'm a hardcore finance man from back in the 1990s, and I have 7 patents in the digital asset space, and they're very strong patents. So I'm definitely not anti-crypto, but I'm realistic. So we could go down the list, right? Bitcoin as a unit of account is pure speculation, and it may do well because there's a lot of demand pushing into it. It's being pushed by BlackRock, etc. Same thing with Ethereum, just not to the extent because Ethereum has utility. Okay, but a lot of the utility is unforeseen or not seen by even the big finance houses coming in. I just did a post, X post, where the big ETF sponsors have not done a freedom to operate analysis. They've totally overlooked patent infringement risk, which is very significant and very real, and it's public, and notice has been given, which means a lot of the ETF investors quite possibly could get wrecked. And if they do get wrecked, would it be the sponsor's fault? The reason is they're
Right.
looking at this as a traditional financial asset. It is not even close. It is technology. Now, the units of account can be traded. You can trade it on Coinbase and Uniswap, etc. But again, you're not looking at the technology. You're trying to become TradFi, and it's not TradFi. Now, further on, people are not suffering who really understand this basis. Okay, the technology is being adopted in mass. I'll give you a couple of hints. I'm not going to tell you whose technology it is. Federal Reserve has adopted the technology last year, and they adopted it in a very, very big way. Okay, assume mass messaging has a consensus algorithm, and the Fed now is using the technology. Okay, the Nasdaq, if not using it now, probably will very soon. So those who understand that the actual gold back in the gold rush is the intellectual property, okay, and then the second derivative of that primary value driver would be the equity of those who either own that property or invest in that property, and then the third order would be the units of account, the tokens that go up and go down that you look at on CoinDesk. The problem is that's what's available to most of the retail investors, and it pales. It pales to what would be achieved by owning the IP or investing into the equity of those who own the IP. I don't remember the name of the speaker who was there before me or the one before that, but he had a very valid point. Does the value accrue to the owner of the token? Okay, now if you have an unlimited supply of tokens, you'd have to have an unlimited supply of value. Very difficult. Okay, and if the tokens are simply a payment mechanism, and if that payment mechanism were to truly be utilitarian, then you need a stable price, or prices will go up as soon as things get popular and things get rocky. So, would it
And
make
yet,
sense?
Bitcoin is the heir apparent to being the decentralized. I mean, we talk about Bitcoin as though it isn't a utility, but in essence, it is. It's the main and first. It is a store of value, and it is a way to transact.
I'll tell you
And
what.
it seems like
No, go ahead.
with all the it seems like with all the war going on right now, for example, and uncertainty in trade wars and so forth, that people are going to want a decentralized currency independent of state. Don't you think that it paints a pretty rosy future for BTC?
Not at all. But let's walk through it. I want to be democratic in this conversation because I think it's very useful. Okay. How many stagflation scenarios has Bitcoin experienced? I saw a pause. I'll let you think about that. How many highly inflationary scenarios has Bitcoin experienced? Or highly deflationary?
Well, it's been pretty highly inflationary the past couple of years.
No, no,
From
no.
my perspective.
You know, price inflation, no. Money supply inflation, yes. I mean, Bitcoin, when I got into Bitcoin in 2013, it had almost a negative correlation, right, to inflation in the markets. That correlation
Right.
came close to 100%. The reason is because now all the traditional institutions are jumping in. When they jump in, then you're on the bandwagon. So when they need capital, when they need liquidity, they sell their risky assets, Bitcoin. Right? When they want to go risk on, they buy the risky assets. That's why Bitcoin goes up when the stock market goes up. Bitcoin goes down when the stock market goes down. Now they're trying to financialize Bitcoin. Let's assume, and I'm not saying this is the case, let's assume that there's a very smart guy who has a patent on Bitcoin. And all these Bitcoin ETFs is where most of the institutions will gain Bitcoin exposure, right, have not listed that in their prospectuses. Or the cold storage methodology that the big custodians use are patented. There's so many risks that are underappreciated because people are looking at this as if it was IBM stock or a
Yeah,
U.S. Treasury.
you're absolutely right, Reggie. And I've only got 15 more minutes. Like, truthfully, this is one of those panels that's making me wish I did do a 3 hour show because there's so much to talk about. And I don't disagree with the vibe that you're taking it. I mean, the central point is that how do you talk? You can't, like, people call it digital gold. Well, folks, gold has literally been used for 10,000 years as a store of value. It's kind of like looking at, talk about drugs that don't have any 30-year studies behind them. So it isn't the same kind of reliability. I totally understand that. Well, let me get Sid up real quick, though. You got brilliant insights there, though, Reggie. You should come back, definitely. Like, I've got so many good insights today that I wish that I want to capture everybody.
Yeah, let me just say one
Sid,
thing before I jump in. I'm at
yeah,
the
go ahead.
Jacob Javits Center in New York. This is the Institutional Digital Assets Summit. I don't think there are four people here who understand what I just said. So, you know, if you didn't get it, you're in good company. Okay, because this is New York. This is supposed to be the premier digital assets summit, and people don't get it yet. Okay, but thanks for
Yeah,
having me on.
well, depending on what we mean by it, I think you could say that about a lot of Web3 spaces. Like some of us get some of it, not a few of us get all of it. I think
Yeah,
in order to have a full perspective, you have to understand traditional markets, you have to understand global economics, you have to know a little bit about history, and then hopefully the technology too. I can't check all those boxes, not personally, but fortunately, I'm in the business of getting people smarter than me to come on and tell me about it. Let me go over to Sid from Nirvana real quick. Sid, what a heavy freaking conversation we're having so far. I personally think that Bitcoin is going to recover. I think it's been